Hi, my name is Tara, and I'm here to talk about going to college with a disability. People with the same diagnosis can have varying abilities. I am honored to be joined today by former Director of Academic Advising, Tracy Bolin. And together we will talk about my challenges and how I overcame those challenges to graduate not only with one bachelor's degree, but with two separate bachelor's degrees. Thanks for joining me, Tracy, today. If you want to explain how we met.
Yes, I can explain how we met. This will be good. So Tara started out attending school in the School of Business and Economics, and it was back in, I gotta dig deep, Tara, because it goes back to the 90s.
1998.
It is, fall 1998 is when Tara started it. We were called the School of Business and Economics at that time. And Tara, that's when you started taking a bunch of your classes, meeting the program prereqs, because we have those program pre-major classes that every student needs to take. And during that time, I met Tara. I didn't work a whole lot with Tara at that time, and that's because, as you know, Tara, you were working with a different advisor in our office. And that was the person that you were working with for degree requirements and advice and how to get through the system. And I just met you as a student as you come in the office and ask questions, and I got to know you that way. But I was aware that you certainly had some, I guess, challenges that you were facing, which prevented you from focusing on your academics. And so
now I am going to put a term on the screen, and you tell me how you pronounce it.
That's putting me on the spot, Tara.
Do you pronounce this cerebral palsy or cerebral palsy? Cerebral palsy or cerebral palsy? Now, if you pronounce it cerebral palsy, I say it the first way. If you pronounce it cerebral palsy, I say it the second way.
Well, here's how I've always pronounced it: cerebral palsy.
Before looking forward, we should all take a look back at the height that we have climbed to get here today. Graduates, could you all imagine for a moment being able to reacquaint yourself with the younger version of you, say from 17 years ago? Standing side by side, you look down at the young, eager, naive version of you. Not only is your physical perspective of the world from a much lower point of view, your outlooks, dreams, goals, desires are shiny, untried, new, unchallenged. Now, you can tell your younger self of all that has happened between here and there, all the stories you've collected, milestones you've crossed, things you've accomplished.
We will return to the correct pronunciation of the term at the end of this interview. My first several years at UMD did not go smoothly. I had several resources, including a disability resource counselor and a financial person, and these people were helpful in ways, but then also not helpful in other ways. I had lots of lower back pain from muscle spasms, which are involuntary contractions of the muscles that are often painful. My medical providers said that there was nothing wrong with my back, then why am I in so much pain? This pain led to academic struggles during this time period, which resulted in academic dismissal because my GPA was less than the minimum standard of 2.0. As a result, I had to repeat several courses.
You had so many curveballs coming at you left and right between managing your pain, how to figure out how to make it through class because X, Y, and Z happened. All of those different problems and challenges that you were faced with certainly played a role. And at one point, it impacted your ability to, attend class and perform in class. And then your grades, as you know, they started suffering. However, as you know, Tara, that had nothing to do with your academic ability. And then, as you know, Tara, then you started taking other classes, you started repeating classes. The GPA did improve, obviously, and you were allowed back into the business school and kept progressing. And you progressed for a while, but still, again, it seemed like every semester, Tara, you were coming in saying, now I got this we're dealing with. And
well, I had moved out of Duluth.
Yes, that was too.
After my fall semester of 06. Yep. And then in 09, I had physical therapy, yep, which helped, but it still wasn't near, yep, what it should have been at the time.
She has a pretty good arch in the back. You can see I can slide my hand right under. So what I do is when she's here, she's on her back. I brought this wedge up under her knees, and then I just look for her pelvic bone. You can feel this part of her pelvis is very easy to find because she's so slender. And then I just slowly push down on that, and that effectively rolls her pelvis a little into a neutral position, and that way it flattens her back. Exercise that needs to be done by caregivers. In the Tara's back twists, she has difficulty twisting it the way it needs to go for a good stretch. So what we've ended up doing is 2 stretches in side lying. In this position, you can put one hand here on her hip and the other on the back. And what we try and do is stretch her trunk longer, and then we rotate it a little out of her normal posture. So I've got one hand on the hip, one hand on just under her shoulder on the side, and I just stretch as if to make her taller. Then when she's in this position, I stretch the left shoulder forward and the right hip back. I hold it 2, 3, 4, 5, and I relax. I try, and I think I just failed, to use my whole palm as the force plate, trying not to dig in with my fingers, but I can feel my fingers digging in. So I'm going to try again. Same here, the hand on the hip, hand just under the left arm. I stretch long, and then I rotate left shoulder forward, left hip back. 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax.
I was able to focus on school. My academic performance improved and was above average. I did come back to the Twin Cities campus and take, 3 classes?
Yep, there was a handful of classes on the Twin Cities campus, that is correct.
Right, and I still did not complete the degree, and I did 1 summer class at UMD in 2011. And those classes went better.
Yes, they did. And you were getting so much closer, but then that's where you had another gap where you took some time off, focus on you. And we said, you got to make sure you take care of yourself and so you can be in the proper state of mind to complete your coursework. So it was about a 5 or 6 year gap where you were off.
When I went to register, because at that time I was only doing summer school for personal reasons. And so when registration time came up for summer of 2012, I had yet another curveball of pain and spasticity.
Yep.
And so I had to make a decision based on my funding source. Am I going to be able to go to summer school in summer of 12, or am I not? And 3 months ahead of time, I just couldn't make that decision. So I said, I can't do it. And so I let the funding source go until spring of 2017, when I attempted to come back, but things again did not go as planned.
Yep, I remember that term because you remember that management class you were in? It started out okay, but then too many curveballs came up and it's, oh, because of this happened, now I'm going to get behind and I can't do this. And it was just getting complicated real fast. I remember, I think you withdrew from that class, if you remember.
That's correct. I learned how to manage my time,
yep,
according to what my body could do.
Absolutely.
As I watched again of what it was that you were doing to manage current symptoms and understanding the pain that you were having in the front of the hip, the one aspect that I really saw that was lacking was the hip flexor stretch, specifically to elongate the so as in the iliacus muscle, as they tighten or bring the hip closer to the abdomen. And to do that, there are many different variations we're doing. Oftentimes people only tolerate one at a time, but it looked like in the picture you're doing two there. And adding that in was the one, it sounds like, missing link. And so it was really awesome to be a part of your ability to increase your activity tolerance, sitting in the chair and being able to say, you know, this is the one thing that I see that you have symptoms that correlate with this muscle group. So you should maybe be addressing that as well. So that's kind of the thought process behind how I ended up giving you that stretch.
I faced more curveballs, and I applied to graduate, but had to file a couple petitions. One, to use an older course catalog of requirements, and the second one, to take one more class on the Crookston campus to meet residency requirements. And in 2019, I graduated with a degree in business administration.
Yep.
So then I took a class on campus in the summer of 17, and that one went well.
And when you came back in that summer class, and I remember you were so excited to have a class that you were doing well in. And granted, I'm not saying it was perfect, but you said it. Look at what happens when things go well for me, because you were able to focus and pay attention, even though you still had to manage, you know, some bouts of pain here and there, but it wasn't like what it was before. And I remember you said that you had fun in that class. Remember, it was very interactive, that negotiations class.
And then I tried another online class in fall of 17 with the same instructor that I would have had for spring 17, but ended up withdrawing from that because of a totally different disability related reason.
Yep.
No, I took spring off because of a possible death in the family. that, I mean, I think she might have passed just at the beginning of the semester, but we
Okay.
didn't know
Got it.
what the scenario would be, how long she would
Yep.
live. You know, I didn't know if it was going to be the beginning of the semester, or the end of the semester. Too hard to tell. So I didn't want to have to deal with that plus schooling. Summer of 18 that I took my first full online course.
Yep, that's correct. And I believe that was on the Crookston campus, I believe.
That's correct.
Yep.
And then so I did one class summer 18, one class in fall of 18, and one class in spring of 19. We were able to petition to get an older course catalog.
That is correct. And that was due to all of the curveballs and extenuating circumstances that you faced in getting your degree. It just made sense for us to ask the LSD administrators, can we have her use an older catalog? Otherwise, that would have meant that you may have had to take a couple extra classes following the newer curriculum, and I didn't think we needed to go there. So that was right. We did do that.
And in addition, we had to do another petition for a class on Crookston and maintain the residency requirement.
That is correct.
And that was just because there was no online courses in Duluth.
Correct.
Accessible housing was few and far between.
Very true. And since it was still part of the University of Minnesota system, it was Crookston campus instead of Duluth. And again, all of those extenuating circumstances that you were dealing with. The org management major and the Bachelor of Business Administration degree. But Tara, if you recall, your performance in those last handful of classes, when things were going well for you in your life, it was just amazing. You were very pleased, and I was very pleased to see your academic performance in those classes. It was clearly a much higher step than what you had done previously when you had all those other issues that you were dealing with. Yep, and that is when you reached milestone number 1.
Which got me across that stage. 2019 as the last class to cross the stage pre-COVID.
See, and then I think it was because, wow, school went well, and you were able to think things over.
Enrolled in a higher number of credits, while earning a bachelor's degree of accounting expected fall of 2022. However, able to achieve outstanding academic performance, which would qualify for Latin honors.
Why don't we keep things going? So after you graduated in spring 19, wasn't it the following summer 2020, you said, hey, I think I want to come back now and go for accounting. And then we sat down and we went over everything and said, all right, well, what will it take for Tara to reach this second goal of getting a second degree, which is a Bachelor of Accounting degree?
Right. And then I decided to come back in summer 2020. I tentatively made the decision before COVID, and then bam, we were hit with COVID.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure how this was going to play out.
Yep, and that was a wrinkle that every college student in the country had to deal with, and that is, how do I take a college class during COVID when everything is remote? So remember the challenges there, Tara, and trying to figure out, wow, what does this class look like? How does it feel? How is this going to work?
Well, in summer 2020, I had another one of my bouts with pain, and my quiz scores weren't what they should have been.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And you still did well, even though you were facing that.
Right,
remember- Yep. Then
took
you
an
remember
incomplete where
Yep.
I could finish up.
at a later time.
Right, so that gave me the rest that I needed to be able to get my head on straight.
Yep. And you did very well, as you know, when in that fall 2020, you took 2 accounting classes and you did great. And then you just started rolling ahead. And then I remember, Tara, when you came to me as we approached spring of 2021 and you said, hey, I would like to take more classes. Do you remember that? And you ended up enrolling in 8 credits for spring of 21. And guess what, Tara? You did an amazing job and you handled it well.
In summer of 21, my father passed away.
Yep. And that's also a term that you did very well in as well. So again, Tara, that's when I started. What was that phrase I started calling you, or the title? I nicknamed you the Queen of Curveballs, because you kept showing us how no matter what happened in your life, Tara was going to persevere and she was always going to do what she needed to do. So you have to be commended for all the awesome things that you've done, Tara, with everything you're dealing with. Too, we got to highlight fall of 21, Tara. Remember that
one went well as
you took
well.
You took 6 credits and that you had one of your highest GPAs for the term. That was outstanding. So
right, and
all right, Terry, it's time for us to move on to a different topic. So let's talk about during the semester break between fall 21 and spring 22. It now became my turn to unfortunately give you a curveball that you had to deal with. And that was that I transitioned into a different position on campus. And so that meant going into this new position, then I was no longer serving as your advisor. And I remember when the communication email was sent out to students, Tara, you were the first student that responded and said, oh my, tell me more. What does this mean? And how am I going to be able to finish up? So Tara, as you know, since you're so close to finishing your 2nd degree, you are in good hands. You already knew what it was that you needed to complete in your last term to finish up your degree requirements. And then after I left, then you were working with a different advisor in the office. So now you have another resource that you can work with and make sure that you get your questions answered. So again, Tara, I'm sorry for that curveball I threw at you, but sometimes things are unpredictable. So again, Tara, I want to say that you persevered once again when one more curveball was thrown your way. That would put you in the Latin honors category. If we just looked at your GPA in that window of time, that would be Latin honors qualification. So kudos to you, Tara, for not just finishing those courses, but doing outstanding work in those courses.
And lastly, can you share a favorite story or memory of our time together?
Ooh, that's a good question. Wow, that's a good one. Okay, here we go. I'm going to say it's kind of a hybrid. And this is because this has a lot of meaning to me, and that is watching you come to the commencement ceremony so that you could be publicly recognized for achieving your goals and your dreams, and that's getting your 2 bachelor's degree. I would have to say that really had a lot of meaning for me, especially when you came with your family and friends and we took pictures together. Remember that?
Yes, I have those pictures.
To me, that was just so meaningful because I'm like, that photo represents what you and I did together as a team. We made a great team.
My favorite moment was when I came around that corner and you said, go Tara, go. Unfortunately, my SD card failed, so I didn't get video of that moment. many volunteer commitments while enrolled in a higher number of credits, helping others see the opportunities that are available and to help them achieve their goals/dreams.
And more importantly, when you participated in the volunteer income tax assistance class, I really think that experience there kind of solidified your newfound love for tax, right?
To add to that, I got the most money back for the clients that I did returns for in the whole class for that semester. The 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th largest returns.
That's excellent. See, so look at that. You were putting all of that knowledge to good use, weren't you, Tara?
Plus, I was, since 2013, I had been volunteering, and I still volunteer to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes a lot of my weekends.
Yep.
And sometimes weekday hours as well. So not only was I taking 8 credits, but I was able to do 8 credits plus continue to volunteer.
Yes. And I remember sometimes you're saying, oh boy, how do I balance my classwork requirements with my volunteer, because my volunteer hours picked up this week because a curveball happened at work. You know what I mean? You got all kinds of things going back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
needless to say, in what the training for that tax class actually overlapped with one of the volunteer shifts, but I was able to work it out with the instructor.
And I also want to point out that, Tara, in all of our interactions over the years, I want you to know that you probably learned maybe some things from me, but I want you to know how much you have taught me and how much I learned from you as well.
Thank you. And I wish you well. And
I leave you with this. Class of 2022, arguably, we are one of the most resilient classes to walk this stage. Each and every one of us today graduates with an education that was earned through unprecedented times. It may not have felt like it in the moment, but at the end of the day, we are not a class represented by the loose acceptance of our given situation. We are the living example of why not to. Why not to take anything for granted. Why to seize the moment. And why not to let opportunity pass us by. What we have endured is not to be swept under the rug, but rather hung appropriately in the form of a tassel from our caps. No matter where your journey takes you next, where your route points to, pursue it with a sense of urgency, as if today is the most important day of your life and nothing about tomorrow's guaranteed. Live each day with the confidence that you did what you could with what you had. Remember, you belong to the class who faced unprecedented challenges in your education, and you still triumph because you are persistent, you are resilient, you are educated, and most importantly, for today, class of 2022, you are about to graduate. Your younger self is proud of and celebrating the person you have become. Congratulations and thank you.
I just wanted your reflection on how it was being my advisor. Was it difficult or was it just a unique situation?
Well, Tara, that's a very good question that you ask. And I'm just going to say that it was very unique, right? I will say it was unique because of the fact that you came in and you asked a lot of really good questions. You also would contact me and say, hey, I've got this or this or this now going on. So you are coming up with, I'll just say, some issues or concerns or curveballs, as we call them, that maybe not other students have experienced before, or not many anyway. So I would say your situation, advising you, was unique in that way. You had some things that you were bringing up, and that was interesting on my end, because it's like, all right, how can I help Tara today? What do I need? What information do I need to gather from her? Do I need to do some more research? What can I do to give her the assistance that she needs in order to be successful? So I would certainly say that you had a lot of things to report on, right?
Right.
Never a dull moment, as they say. And then, like I said, we just kept moving forward together the best that we can. I do want to say that I believe that you and I worked well together, because you would come in with your concern or question, and we would address it, and then you would, provide an update later, whatever, and then we would moving forward. But I do have to say, Tara, that I have to give you credit for you making sure that you always ask great questions, and you did, and that you kept me up to date as what was going on, and that you were so willing to, what's the word I'm looking for here? That you are so determined. That's what I want to say, right? You are determined. You are dedicated. You wanted to finish your degree, and you just kept going, and you just kept going. And it's, okay, what help do I need today? Or what question do I have for you today? And I have to commend you for your persistence, Tara. That's amazing. When you look back, I'm sure you look back at it yourself, and you look at where were you previously and where are you now these days, and you're going to see a big difference. And so,
Right.
and that's amazing.
When I stopped in 2011, after that 2011, I thought I was never going to finish, based on having to make that quick decision to get funding or not get funding.
Yeah.
And then I had the physical therapy in 2017 that really was life-changing.
Yes, that's true, because I remember that you refer to that quite a few times, and that is really awesome that did happen for you. So that's my summary on that. It's just, it was unique, because I would say can't think of any other student situation that I've had that's similar, or it's just very unique, Tara.
But it wasn't difficult necessarily. That you had to find ways around certain things, or
I don't know that I would use the word difficult. It was unique, and like I said, sometimes I would just have to do some more research on things in order to provide some advice or an answer to a question you've asked. So, and on a side note, I think another thing that was very fortunate for you is that you would interact and talk with your faculty members on a regular basis, and that your faculty members would work with you and support you in helping you learn throughout the entire semester until you completed the course. So I think that was also very, very neat, that you worked very closely with your faculty, and your faculty responded and they supported you. That's really cool.
So it's just a more complex situation with all the curveballs than the rest of the students.
That is very true, Tara. That is a good way to summarize it right there.
Thank you. And I wish you well. And I would like to introduce my friend Raylan and her dad Chris, who inspired me to make this video, and always to have joy and hope even when life seems hopeless.
I would say, Raylan is 10 years old now, so this would probably be about 8 years ago, when Raylan probably hadn't been in our home for very long at this point. But Raylan, she's always been kind of herself. She's never been able to walk, talk, crawl, really give us too much feedback in terms of how she is thinking or what she's thinking or how she's feeling. So a lot of people would look at Raylan and think, well, she's just not going to contribute much to society, right? So we'd been taking care of her probably for a few months at this point, maybe a little bit longer than that. And so I was doing office work, I was visiting people and those kinds of things. And I was just kind of exhausted by the end of the day. I was tired. In fact, it felt like kind of a unproductive day, even though I was really busy during the day. I was exhausted. I just wanted to come home and veg out, zone out, kind of throw a pity party in a way, just reflecting on how busy I am, yet feeling like I'm not really getting anywhere. So I just wanted to just ignore the world, sit on the couch, watch TV, and just throw a pity party. So I got home. And when I got home, I went to the couch to sit down and just kind of ignore the world for a little while. And Raylan was already sitting there, and she was laying on the couch, and she was just smiling. She had this big smile on her face, and I can still picture it when I think about it. And I just thought, with all the struggles that Raylan has, and with all the stigma that she oftentimes her lifestyle has in terms of other people as well, thinking about she can't do anything and those kinds of things. I see her on the couch smiling in her situation. And I just thought, what do I have to complain about? I mean, with all the things that we often complain about in life, and Raylan was just on the couch smiling. Guys, life is not about what we can accomplish. Life is not about all the things that we think we need to do or can do in life. Life is about, and whether we can do a lot or can't do a lot, just being content with that. So Raylan teaches me all the time. Raylan teaches me just to be content in life, not worry so much about what I can and can't do, what I can and can't accomplish, enjoy our family. So I got home and I sat on the couch with Raylan. I think I held her for a while we both watched TV and just enjoyed the moment. That was cool. So that's one of my favorite stories to tell about Raylan, especially in our earliest days of just learning to take care of her. And we still learn things from her all the time. So it's pretty cool.
This is Jeopardy!
According to the dictionary, is cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy.